Welcome to another episode of Let's Be Mindful. So, today we're going to talk about relationships, what I usually talk about, and intimacy. So, today I have a guest on the show. Her name is Shelby, and she is a relationship and intimacy coach. So, Shelby, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, thank you. I specialize in sex and intimacy, and my basis is around attachment style. I'm also a Reiki healer, so energy is a big thing that I include in my coaching and my healings as well. And I really like to help women to create deep emotional intimacy in their relationships.
It's the start of the year, and I know a lot of people did vision boards and they were writing and scripting because, girl, I script. And
Yeah.
they were writing out, okay, what they're going to attract in 2024. And I'm sure one of those things is a relationship, right?
Mhm.
But before we get into these relationships, and my tagline, as I say, we catching flights and feelings because we traveling and in the in the spirit of love, girl. But in order to get there, it's like, well, we got to work on self first. So
Mhm.
let's start on the attachment theory because I just posted a video about and being an avoidant. I am an avoidant. Even though I was raised secure, I became
Mhm.
avoidant from a bad marriage, I should say, or divorce. And
Mhm.
I have loved myself way back into being secure, but it's not easy. What is your experience, or what are you seeing when people? Let's start with avoidant because I'm so familiar with that, unfortunately, from
Okay.
personal experience. Do you think most of the avoidants that you work with are they coming from historically? We know they come from their childhood, but what are you seeing today? Are most of them coming from their childhood, or are a lot of them coming from former relationships that they've had?
I'd say it's a mix of both. It really, like with attachment, the thing is, it can't like you're kind of alluding to already. It can be from childhood stuff, and it can be from relationships. It can
Mhm.
also be from work. It could be from siblings. It could be from a friendship, and it can
Mhm.
differ depending on which relationship you're in too. So you could be more avoidant in certain relationships, and then maybe a little more secure in others, more anxious in a different one. So it just kind of depends on what's going on. But yeah, I'd say that it's not necessarily always just from childhood. It can be from multiple types of relationships.
What are some telltale signs when you start working with clients? What are some telltale signs that, you know what, oh gosh, she or he is an avoidant? What are some that you know immediately identifies them that you can recognize quickly, I should say?
Well, I'd say actually the avoidants aren't usually the ones that come in. They if I'm being honest, it's usually the anxious or the fearful avoidants who are looking for something to change and
Mhm.
really are really seeking that love and connection. And the avoidants are kind of like, I'm okay on my own. I don't think I need to change anything until there's a certain pain point where they're like, this loneliness is really
Mhm.
unfulfilling, and maybe I should look at changing something. So it takes
Mhm.
avoidance a bit longer to come, but I would say, some of the telltale signs would be so if their attachment style is about their childhood, then they might say some things like, "I had a really ideal childhood, like, I don't remember anything being wrong or off." And then
Mhm.
the thing with that is if it is coming from a childhood, like, wounding, it could be that in the family, people like, the kids were given what they needed to live, like
Mhm.
food, shelter,
Mhm.
basic needs like that, but not necessarily that emotional connection and love that they desired and really
Mhm.
needed. There was no emotional intimacy and emotional connection there.
I didn't know anything was wrong. So, yeah, it would have taken me, and I did get help from it. I did get a life coach a few years ago, a number of years ago, because I was like, wait a minute. There's no way in the world somebody like me can go on almost 200 dates with almost 200 men and not like anybody. Like I should have known like after date 100. But I just like no, no, I'm not ready, right? So I can
Mhm.
honestly see why and avoid it because I have a really good friend and he is the classic avoidant in his 50s. No, I'm not married. I'm not settling down. No, because and one thing that we will do is we sometimes more so self-sabotage,
Mhm.
meaning like looking at the negative in a person, right?
Yeah.
No, because it's to cut I'm not going to be invested that much in this person. So I'm going to just look at the negatives about them, right?
Yeah.
No, oh my gosh, they chew gum too loud. And it's like, really?
Yeah. Yeah, flaw finding. with people that are a bit more avoidant, there can be a tendency towards being more logical, and like having a list in a sense. So, you can, and like what you're saying too. So that flaw finding thing and certain, so I'm just thinking like, as you try to tick off a list of the things that you do or don't want, like can't sit up that straight, chews gum too loud, didn't put the fork and knife in the proper place when they were done with their, like eating their food. I feel like they spoke in a funny way to me. Like, they could have this whole list of things, but usually, yeah, I find that they're usually very logical and not as emotional. Like when it comes to emotional intimacy, they don't really have that much with themselves because they've shut it off because they've been hurt or haven't had it or have learned to rely on themselves for it. And then when they reach out to other people, they've been disappointed or they've been let down. So they're kind of like, well, why would I keep doing that? I can take care of myself. So I'm just going to keep doing that because then I don't have to get hurt. But then I feel alone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dismissive avoidants usually have these core wounds where they might feel very trapped. They may feel like something's wrong with them. They might not realize that right away, but I've met a few who very much think something is wrong with them.
So yeah, there's nothing wrong, but on the flip side, there's I think I'm really talented. I can get over somebody really easily. Like you may hear avoidance say that I'm so talented. Oh my gosh, it's amazing how my feelings just disappear just like that. Like we broke up and I'm good. Like, because there was that whole safety net. There was a whole wall there. That's why you feel good. That's why it didn't hurt because you never were fully vested. And so yeah, they think that too. Trust me, because I've sold myself a million times. I have said that line a million times. Oh, I'm so talented. I don't know what I can snatch my feelings back just like that. Okay, so and speaking of an avoidant attachment, do you think they're ever fully healed?
Yes, I believe it because I've done it.
Okay, so then the anxious attachment style. Now I can sit here and tell you that I see more of my clients having, well, no, I have a mix. I will say that there's a mix because I coach masculine women who are trying to find their femininity. I find those women are more avoidant. I do find that because a natural way, we just are, look, I don't have time for this. I'm doing too much. And so therefore leave me alone. And so they, they don't have, a lot of them don't have that anxious attachment style, but I have some clients who do, girl, that I'm constantly talking off the ledge. So well, let's talk, the telltale signs of someone who's anxious. And then we'll just, also see, well, how can we help somebody who has an anxious attachment style? But off the bat, what are some clues?
For me, the first thing that I usually notice is texting style. So I find the anxious are the people that will send you texts that are like 5 feet long. And they don't need a lot of they don't need a lot to keep going either. Like you could kind of have a response and they could just send something large right back to you. That's one of the things that I've noticed. It's like I need to explain all the things and feel and all the feelings that I'm having and all the this and all of that. And I want to tell you my whole story. And I really want, like, I just want you to know me and I want to really connect with you and blah, blah, blah. Like, it's just, that seems to be where it is. And the energy, like you can even feel it as I'm saying it, the energy of it and the way that they're speaking is kind of like, wah! Like, it just feels a little more chaotic, a little hectic and like grabby energy. And then anxious, if you're on a date, for example, to me, they are the more physical touchy types. So they might be the ones that would, they want to touch really quickly. So secure may want to connect with touch as well, but they they would ask, there would be more like consent conversations involved at the same time. To be like, I'd really like to hold your hand. Like, are you comfortable with that? Can I do that? And it might not be it might not be the first date. Like the first date, the anxious is more likely to probably be like going for the kiss or hold hands right away or do whatever, like some sort of physical something.
What are some basic things that somebody that has an anxious attachment style, what are some basic things in your mind they could do to heal that?
Well, so emotional regulation would be the main, like emotional regulation and really understanding what it is that they need. And then being able to express boundaries. I'd say those are like the top 3 things. I'm feeling a feeling, I need to go and talk to someone about it. And it's like immediately. So they haven't had any time to process it themselves. So even things like taking a second before you send that text. Every attachment style has some sort of underlying anxiety going on. So anxious, it's very clear right away. Like you can see again, like that grabby energy, the way they talk, it might be faster, it might be more intense. The fearful avoidant can swing back and forth. So fearful avoidant is super dysregulated. So they can go from that more grabby energy to like disassociating and swinging way off to that more avoidant side, where their body's basically kind of like shutting down and saying like, nope, can't deal with that. Way too much. I'm overloaded. Shut down, go to bed, or go and binge watch for a day, or whatever the situation is. And then, so that's kind of, again, so the fearful avoidant FA can be either or. Avoidant can be more consistently disassociated from their body, their feelings, more maybe in that freeze mode of like nervous system dysregulation than anything else. But there is anxiety that the avoidants also feel too. It's just very underlying, and you wouldn't necessarily see it. It's kind of like, everything might look okay here, but inside it's like all these gas electron bubbles.
How can one create the most intimacy in their relationship?
It all comes down to communication, but it's broken down into so many things. So people need to be able to really understand what it is that they need and how to express it in a really clear way. But they also need to be able to know that they can give it to themselves. So yes, there are healthy expectations that someone else can give them certain things like, I expect from a partner to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel that I'll be able to be supported and emotionally held when I need to. I feel like those are all very reasonable and like baseline requests. Thank you very much. And then there should be boundaries too. So like having conversations about, again, the needs, about the boundary, and say, a boundary for me is I can't have someone raising their voice or yelling at me or swearing at me. It's not okay. And that's a boundary for me, and be able to continually speak up for that and then do something about it. This is the repercussion from it now. Like if we can't figure this out, I'm doing XYZ. Like I'm not going to see you for a week. I'm going to it depends. It depends on the situation. It might be, I have to break up with you because realistically, who wants to be yelled at or sworn at for anything as a way of conflict resolution?
I'm big on boundaries and honor and your standards. Like know your standards before you start dating people. But how can someone, in your opinion, introduce a boundary? Do they wait for someone to cross their boundary? Or do they just go ahead and, hey, I'm going to communicate my boundaries up front?
I think it depends on the situation. So ideally, you're not waiting until someone crosses your boundary. You just know what it is and you're able to communicate it up front. With newer people, and as you're working on this stuff, it's easier because there's not as much connection or involvement yet. But if you're dealing with people like your family, your friends that you've known, like been friends with for a long time, or a partner that you've been having some troubles with, and they know that you do things in a certain way, or allow, you're a people pleaser and you allow people to walk all over you. And then all of a sudden you start to try to set boundaries. It's going to be harder.
I know there are people who are very hesitant. And the thing is, you'll hear people say, I'm just so easygoing, girl. But being easygoing, or guy, being easygoing isn't necessarily the goal. Like, because you're going, I'm just going to go with the flow. No, if you don't like the flow, then you have every right to get off that boat. But I find people who, but I'm just trying to make it so easy for him. And I'm just so peaceful, but it's like, are you really being peaceful, or is the strife, is it being internalized? Like you're just swallowing everything because you're scared to say your boundary. And the thing about boundaries is you have to, because like you said, you have to stick to them. There is no, if I told you once and you crossed and you knew my boundary and you have now crossed it, it's a wrap. It's a wrap for me, because once you bend one time, then they'll think that, oh, that's really not a boundary because she took it once. So I'm not even thinking twice. I'm out, and it depends on what the level of boundary it is. If I've told you once to, not put the toilet seat down. Okay. I'm not going to be like, well, this ain't working for me.
Yeah.
It depends, because that's not even a boundary. That's like a preference. I'm
Yeah.
talking about like a real boundary, like something like, okay, like you said, somebody yelling,
Yeah.
catch somebody in a lie, somebody
Mhm.
cursing at you or cheating on you or whatever.
Yeah.
Like if I've expressed what that is and you have chosen to cross it, yep, Shelby,
Mhm.
I'm out faster than you can blink your two eyes. I'm done. It's a wrap for me. Well, Shelby, I'm going to give you an opportunity to be able to share how people can get in touch with you.
Okay. So I have my website, which is shelbyavann.com. And then my Instagram is Intimacy Mistress. So you can find me there as well. And then I'm about to start a group coaching program right now, which is a 12-week program to basically help you learn how to become more intimate with, like, create a better intimate relationship with yourself so that you're able to have that with others.
Okay.
And it talks about a lot of the stuff that we were kind of discussing today. So it's like that basis of creating that relationship to yourself, understanding your needs, boundaries, communication, core wounds, etc. And
Mhm.
then moving a little bit more into the sex side at the very end of the program. And yeah, so that's kind of what I've got going on at the moment. I'm going to host some more of those, and then I do one-on-one coaching as well. So that's kind of where you can find me and some of the things that I offer at the moment.
Awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining my show and coming on talking about attachment styles. I love talking about attachment styles because I think once you really begin to understand your own attachment style, then you can begin the healing and becoming
Mhm.
more connected with someone. Now, we all want to be secure, right? But reality is everybody ain't secure. So, in order to really get that relationship that you also very much so desire, you have to start with the attachment style, because
Mhm.
I think it's going to uncover so much more about yourself. So thank you very much, Shelby. And thank you everyone for tuning in for yet another episode of Let's Be Mindful. Till next time, y'all take care.